Hello everyone and welcome back to the CLSR, and I'm your host, the counselor. Today I want to talk about something that's rather important, and I think it's important for a number of reasons, but most importantly, I've gone to university and I've seen a number of students presenting, and I would have to say it was very challenging and painful watching some of these presentations. And it's like, I didn't think these students understood the gravity of getting it right, pinning it, understanding how a presentation can make you or break you. And I think that it's important that I am going to reveal some of my secrets for presenting. What are some of the secrets that make you an excellent presenter? And these are things that I've learned over the years that are quite important. But first, you have to understand that being prepared, preparation is vitally important, very important. Knowing your audience and committing to the work. You have to be very committed. So before we get into some of these secrets, we do need to understand that we have to be committed. And I mean, so let's say if you're doing a 1 hour presentation, you have to understand that it could take up to 20 hours of work to actually do an excellent presentation in front of anyone. And I mean in front of anyone. And I do say 20 hours for one presentation. That takes about an hour. And yes, it's hard work, and a lot of you don't want the hard work. You want the easy work. However, to be successful, you have to put in the hard work. And it's going to be hard. The expectation of it is hard, but it's a love. And once you learn to get through the hard part, it becomes easier. That's where you can feel good, where you understand, hey, I've mastered this skill. And I think mastering the skill is very important. Presentation can do wonders for you. Once you learn how to give a good pitch even, it's just night and day. And getting your message across in the clearest way is very, 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 I can't emphasize how important it is. So what I want to say is that there are really three parts, major parts that we have to cover, and that is story. You are going to have to develop a story. That's part one. Develop the story. 2, give these people an experience. All right, you are bringing them through something. You are going to give them an experience, and you are going to rehearse, refine, and repeat. So those 3 things, as I said, you're going to develop a story or create a story. You're going to give these people an experience, and you're going to rehearse. Some of the greatest people out there who are at the top of their game, they understand what it's like to practice. Rehearse. And it pays off. However, it just seems in these times, people are less committed. And the ones who are more committed and are disciplined, they can get through. So we have to understand that when we're going through this whole process. But first of all, when you know you're presenting, remember you're selling something. And one of the things that you are selling is you're selling yourself. So you have to have some self-confidence, first of all. Self-confidence is going to do you wonders. Okay, so before you get into any subject, make sure if you're going to present that, you have to be an expert in that subject, meaning very knowledgeable. You have to be at the top of your game, ready to answer any questions. You thoroughly understand your subject, and you are ready to present, and you're ready to face any questions. And you're going to be versatile, but for sure, the one thing you have to have is a succinct knowledge of the topic that you are presenting. Make sure you're well versed in your subject. There's nothing like, and it shows. And people are very forgiving. However, know your subject. And after we're through, you are going to know your subject. You're going to understand. You're going to work at it so well that people are just going to be blown away because you're following my little secrets on how to present. So first, what you want to do is, when it comes to developing or creating a story, you want to be the person you have to be able to visualize, plan, and create ideas well before you start working on that. Okay? Visualize, what do you want? What do you want to convey? What message do you want to convey? Right? What is your objective? When you understand what your objective is, then you get to plan, right? And then all of a sudden use your creative self and come up with a number of ideas. Okay? And also, an important element is to answer the question, what matters the most to my audience? You have listeners and they're asking themselves one question. So you got to make sure that you're aware of that one question. And that one question is, why do I care? Why am I going to care, counselor, about what you're saying? Right? If you don't understand that they are asking all of them in every session, why should I care? And why do I care about what you're presenting? With that in mind, you have to go and really think, what am I going to present that's going to get them to care? Get them to realize what message I'm trying to portray here. So they are asking themselves, why should they care? And you need to make sure that that question is answered with whatever you have to present. And you have to remember, you have to be like a messiah, right? You have to have this spiritual sense of purpose when you're going to present. You have to be so into it that it's just a beautiful feeling, and you realize that you have some work to do and you're passionate about this work and you're committed, and it's just like you feel like that you're at the top of your game and you are willing and open and ready to receive, and you're going to present to your audience, and you're going to feel that you're on another level. And that is about passion. Make sure you understand that there's a passion in you. Because if you're about presenting and that's what you want to do, you have to have a passion. If you're not passionate about it, get something else. Do something else. Also, you want to do when it comes to headlines. If you are doing headlines, okay, you make sure that you have headlines that are developed and fit into 140 character sentences, right? If you're going to sell an idea, maximum 140 character sentences will help you sell your ideas more persuasively. And I use the word persuasive because that's what we're really here to do. We're really here to persuade. And you're learning how to persuade that person by asking these essential questions. How am I going to persuade these people to follow, to buy, to listen, and to act? Okay, so what do? You draw a roadmap. Okay, all right? This is very important. Make sure they can follow you. Okay, and persuasion is important. And you need to understand the rule of 3 when it comes to persuasion. The rule of 3. All right, where 3 points. Always. You never get into a number of points where you have your, even if it's your PowerPoint or whatever, the rule of 3. Everything comes in the rule of 3. It's a magic number. Stick to it. All right. Also, when you're presenting, you have to understand that you have a common villain, an antagonist in your presentation. You have to present that. You have to let the audience, okay, go towards this villain perception. You have to paint the picture of a villain in your presentation. Okay, you have to introduce an enemy and set the stage for this. All right, it's so important. However, you go from this villain and you lead them to what? You lead them to this hero, this save the day character or product or service. You identify the problem, the villain, the antagonist, and you lead them to this hero. Okay? which offers a better way of doing something. All right? It breaks the status quo. It inspires people. All right? And that is what you have to do. And there's a method on how you do that. And it's a real psychology. Think about when people were coming up and growing up. What did they receive? A lot of them received a lot of fairy tales. And every fairy tale there seemed to be what? A villain, a bad person, right? An antagonist. And then there was a what? A good person. So you have to kind of follow along those lines, right? You have to learn. You have to learn to get into their psyche. You have to be able to think how they're going to think if you're going to present, right? You have to understand what they want, what their needs are, and you work backwards. Once you understand their needs and what they're there for, right? Then you work backwards from there to your product or service. That is your whole goal, to understand that. So you have to create the story. And there's very important steps. So you also need to make sure that you are planning. All right? Make sure you have detail in your presentation. Writing descriptive taglines, creating slides, practicing demos, and making sure that the lighting is just right. It's so important. All right? And this all starts on paper. You do. You have to do the brainstorming. You have to be creative. And yes, the paper is so important that you start there. You have to make sure that you spend the majority of your time thinking, sketching, and scripting. All right? This thing out. You're committed. All right? Make sure that you spend hours putting this thing together. You take the time. All right. One thing I've got to warn a lot of people about is bullets. I see so many presentations with bullets, and I want to warn you about using bullets in your presentations. When you use bullets, then people psychologically see that as information that they want to write down, and you don't really want that. You want them to focus on you. You do not want to be having bullets all over the place, because people are going to be feeling that they have to record this information, and once they start doing that, you lose their attention. They start focusing on getting and gathering that information rather than paying attention to you and the message that you are trying to relay to them. So avoid bullets. Okay? You want to have visually engaging presentations to inspire your audience. Remember, it's the story, not the slides, that will capture your audience. You want to be able to tell the story. Story is paramount. The story takes precedent over everything. Tell this story before you work on your PowerPoint even. All right? Write a script first. You actually expand your visual possibilities, because writing defines your purpose before you start designing. A script unlocks the undiscovered power of PowerPoint. Okay? The script must come first. So now we need to talk about some major elements that need to be considered in your presentation. Number one, your headline. What's the big idea you want to leave? It should be at least 140 characters or less, memorable, and written in subject, verb, objective sequence. All right. Number two, passion statement. You got to have passion for your subject and excitement. You want to communicate an excitement about your subject. I'm excited about youthful face cream. This product is amazing because it makes you look 10 years younger. And once you have identified the passion statement, don't be bashful. Share it with a passion. Next, you have 3 key messages. Remember, I told you about your listeners are going to have short-term memory. So you want to give 3 key messages. So when I'm giving these 9 elements, really try and follow them in a chronological order. Okay, I'm really giving this to you. This is like the real secret. This is the stuff that is success. Okay, Also, after those 3 key messages that you're given, right? Understanding that people have short memory and you want to make sure that they get it. All right, then you go with your metaphors and analogies. All right, these are very important. All right, a metaphor is a word or phrase that denotes one thing and is used to designate another for purposes of comparison. Okay, it's a persuasion tool, simply put, and it's one of the best tools in the marketing industry. It's what a lot of advertisers use, metaphors and analogies, right? They use it in campaigns. You can see people using it in elections. Try to make sure that you understand sales professionals are using these tools for sure. And you're really a salesperson. Okay, remember that. You're a salesperson. You're selling something. You're relaying something. You're actually selling something. All right. And once you use analogies, they are close cousins to metaphors, and they're very effective. Analogy is like a comparison between 2 different things in order to highlight some area of similarity. Okay. They help us understand concepts that might be foreign to us. So remember that. Okay. Even when it comes to numbers, right? Like if you're talking about something like 15 kilometers, start thinking about something that's similar to that, like if you're going to say 15 kilometers, you might be saying, okay, let's put that into perspective. How can I do the comparison? Maybe 6 football fields. And then people start to get it. Okay, it's simple for them. Simplify, simplify, simplify. That's so interesting and important. Simplify. Okay, and next we have demonstrations. Okay, demonstrations are very good. The majority of people are visual learners, and they would appreciate some demonstrations. And if you have something on hand for them that they can look at or refer to, that's just as important. And these are all the tools that you can use. These demonstrations, they show the audience how your product or service works. Okay, and you have to understand, whenever you are presenting, does your product relate well? And if it doesn't relate well, and it's not easy for people to understand, you have to get them to understand. So if you have to provide some sort of demonstration, do that. Okay, because it is very important. And partners, many of us want to get there. We want to be the center of the stage. But what we found, the research says, if you can add someone to your presentation or partner with them to give a little bit more information to support you, right? You know how they have those people nowadays. That's a very big part of sales today, right? Where people talk about your product and endorse your product, right? The 5-star, 4-star, get partners involved, right? Also, as I just said, customer evidence and third-party endorsements. Making sure that you get someone else to endorse your product. You can get somebody to come and testify on your presentation. They don't even need to be on stage. They could be sitting in the office. It could be staged. But what this is going to do is really bring your presentation to the next level. You've planned for this, right? And you can have someone sitting in the audience waving their hand, testifying, how great your product is, and talking to them about it. It's really about, you are there to sell. You are there to relay and communicate to your audience. You are there, most importantly, to persuade them. So third-party endorsements is also highly recommended. Next, you're going to have video. Video clips. As I said earlier, 80% of the people are visual learners, right? They see things, they get it. So video clips are very good for your presentation, and they work very well. And they're used quite often because they are so effective, and that's something that you should definitely consider, the visual presentation. Now, you can use things like flip charts, props, and do the show and tell. Just make sure you're well prepared for that, okay? Now, remember, just a couple things to understand in this persuasive storytelling journey that you're going on. Make sure you're very aware of some well-known, well-respected writers who have also well-experienced on how to do presentations. And Aristotle has 5 points, okay, to create persuasion and present a persuasive argument. One is deliver a story or statement that arouses the audience interest. Pose a problem or question that has to be solved or answered. Remember I told you about the villain? Told you about the bad person, right? And the hero. Okay. Offer a solution to the problem you raised, which is beautiful. All right. And describe specific benefits for adopting the course of action set forth in your solution. This guy is a genius. All right. And state a call to action. It's simply saying, now, let's see what you can do with this product I presented. Get them to do something, right? Get that call to action. Many of them will listen, but challenge them to actually follow through. So just a few follow-up points that I want my listeners to understand is that, you want to start planning before you open the presentation on software, right? And sketch your ideas on paper or whiteboard, right? Incorporate some of these elements that I had mentioned to make your presentation really stand out, right? Let this thing come alive. Headline, your passion statement, 3 key messages, analogies, demonstration, partner, bring in a partner showcase, right? Customer evidence, and video clips and props. So vitally important. And you know what? It's so important that we do some reflection on what we have to present to people. We have to ask ourselves, why should my listener care about this idea or information, product or service? This one thing. Make sure you hammer that down. Why should they care? And focus on selling the benefit of this thing that you're going to present to them, this product or service. Make sure you focus on selling just that one thing. Once you identify why they should listen or care about this idea, information, or product, make sure you focus on selling that. Make the one thing as clear as possible. Repeat it at least a couple times in the conversation or presentation, right? Make sure that you eliminate any buzzwords and jargon, right? Make sure you are as clear as you can be. Clarity is paramount. Make sure this one thing is consistent across all of your marketing, right? Press releases, websites, page, webinars, presentations. Make sure this one thing is consistent. And now we have to talk about our attitude, our behavior. And we have to really elevate ourselves to Messiah status. Queen of Queens, King of Kings. And that confidence has to relay to your audience, right? They have to get this impression. They're not going to follow you unless you have instilled this confidence in you, this knowing. It's a belief system, right? It's almost like a reality distortion field. It's basically the reality distortion field. It's the ability to convince anyone of practically anything. All right, it's you become magnetic, right? It's like this pull that people gravitate towards you. You're positive, you're encouraging, you present a new spark to these people. It's like steeped in a passion for your product or service, right? And most important, you got to do what you love. If presenting is part of your career, you have to love it. You have to understand that this is not just work. This is a passion. This is a commitment. This is a way of life. And if you're going to make this a part of your life, you have to love it. You have to really genuinely care about it. You have to care about people. You have to know that whatever you're doing some great work. And you're going to put all of you into it, right? And you cannot lose sight of this purpose, And how so many people lose sight of this purpose is they chase money. They chase money, and rarely do they get what they want, because they don't understand the key to success is not chasing money at all. It's chasing your passion. Many of us are going to be trying to break this traditional, this is what I think you should do with your life. This is what sounds good. Engineer, doctor, nurse, whatever. Whatever you want to do, whatever passion, whatever drives you, that is where your success lies. Okay? You have to love it. You have to believe in it. And many of the people growing up, because they've been socialized to believe all these different things, what's good for them, they spend a lifetime trying to figure this out. They don't even know where they're coming from, because they've been told who they are and what they're supposed to do. And that has to be broken. And for you to break that, it's going to take some work. However, the easiest way is to understand where your real passion lies. Don't chase money. Understand and believe. And see, too many people don't believe anymore. They don't believe in themselves. They believe in what they see, but they don't believe in what their possibilities could be. So what do they end up doing? They end up chasing the dollar. And the dollar rises and falls. But your belief should never waver. And once you have that true purpose, that core purpose of understanding who you are and your skills and abilities, where they lie, and your love of the game, whatever game that is, and follow it, and you believe everything will fall into place. Money will come eventually. You're doing what you want. Money is a part of economy anyways. So do what you want, and do it with a passion, and build on it, and work it, enhance it, believe in it, and you will achieve whatever you want to. However, people are taught not to do that. See, there's a certain percentage out there that want the majority to work for them. So they can't see through the trees. They're stuck. All right? And sometimes you have to get a little crazy to shake it off, but it's so true, right? You have to find something that you love to do so much, you can't wait for the sun to rise and do it all over again, right? Think about it. The core values gives you a sense of purpose. And beyond that, making money is 1/10 of life. Money comes and money goes, but when you have a core passion, it doesn't matter if you have money or not. You find a sense of satisfaction, a peace, a calm, a happiness, knowing that you're following who you are, your true gift. There's so many people out there saying that, I don't know what I want to do. Of course you don't, because you've been indoctrinated to believe and think of all these things that you don't know, because we've been told who we are and what we're about. And we forgot that, right? Just be one of those people that comes back to your natural self, understanding that you have personal power, and you got to believe in yourself. You got to believe that it might not look like there's money in it. So what? Follow your passion, understand your skills and abilities and what you love to do, and follow that, and you will be that person. That passionate person really unites people, and it actually encourages people to look for and be a part of a better future, right? They have an understanding and they want to feel good about their future, right? Think about it. Leadership, right? That's what rallies people together. People will follow if you lead. And remember, most of the leaders out there, they're very fascinated by the future, right? You're restless when you're a leader. You have lots of energy, right? Because of your passion. you're impatient for progress. You are deeply dissatisfied. You're never satisfied with the present because you know in your mind there are better things ahead, and you want to help people see that. You want to help them find a better future and reduce the friction in their lives. Let them see what it is and what it can be. And this stirs you up inside and energizes you. And just understanding that is vital to your existence, this passion. You can be that leader that has passion for sure. Just make sure you're pouring your everything, your heart into it. Make sure you're bringing people to a place that is different than their norm. Something that's different from their regular routine. Present them with that. And many of you are very uncomfortable showing some of your emotions and expressing this, right? About what your passion and your dreams are. But it is very important that people relate to you. Showing emotion and passion will attract others and motivate others, right? What matters is that they are motivated by a vision that you have that could change the world or leave some impression in this universe, right? There's techniques that are going to be presented in my podcast, but just understanding a lack of passion that you have in that technique will amount to nothing. No matter what service or product you're trying to provide, passion is so important. And it's energy. And that means taking care of your health. Make sure you're well taken care of and you have lots of energy to communicate that passion. Practice what you preach. Always remember to dig deeper, to identify your true passion, and never forget to ask yourself, what am I really selling? What can this thing do to improve the lives of my customers or my audience? What is going to sell this dream for a better life? And once you identify your true passion, you get to share it with vigor. You're going to invigorate people. Develop your personal passion statement. Tell your audience or your prospects why you are genuinely excited about working with them. Your passion statement will be remembered long after your presentation. If you want to be inspiring people, you want to be an inspiring speaker, make sure you're doing what you love. And consider if you're not doing what you love, make that change, right? People will spot you if you're not genuine. You need to be a genuine person, right? Passion, the King of Kings, Queen of Queens, that Messiah-like persona. Be mindful that initially during your presentation, you want to be able to write that text-like headline. Make sure it's 140 characters or less. Most people cannot describe, what their company does, the product or service in one sentence. So that would require some work and some clarity and some practice. And once you have established this sentence, right, be prepared to relay the message and make sure that you practice it often so it's in your mind, ready to be recalled at will. Make or create a headline, a one-sentence vision statement for your company, product, or service. The most impressive and effective headlines are concise to the 140 character max, and they're very specific and offer a personal benefit to your audience or prospect. Remember that the statement that you offer your audience is a vision of the future. It's not about you, it's not about them, it's about the future. Give them a vision. And remember the rule of 3. I love the rule of 3. And the reason why I love it so much is because it actually gives your prospects direction, something that they could follow. It's simple, easy, they can easily remember it. It's a very valuable tool, and you have to use the rule of 3. You have to understand to apply 3, no more 3. Okay, and keep it to that. Draw them a roadmap. Okay, and when you want to present, there are a number of people who go through and they give this table of contents in their presentation. That is a no-no. You do not give a table of contents. Right there, it's a giveaway. If you're giving them a table of contents, you're telling them basically what the presentation is about, and then I check out. There's no need for me to listen anymore, and that's when people get bored. Stay away from table of contents. If you want to give it to the professor, that's one thing written, but however, you can verbally give your table of contents going through each of your points, but do not give a detailed table of contents. You're not only going to put them to sleep, okay, they're going to feel like they're going to have to write it down, or they're going to get bored, or they're going to feel, oh, I know what this is about, and it's time for me to check out. And you don't want that. You want to give them a roadmap, and that means leading them from point to point to point. And I do mean that through different methods, though. That's what's beautiful about it, right? Different methods of leading them, road mapping them, bringing them from point to point, not giving it all away right up front. Make sure that you are applying the rule of 3, leading them from point to point with your different techniques. That is so important. So create a list of all the key points you want your audience to know about your product, service, or company, and you can categorize the list until you're left with only 3, major message points, right? Provide the verbal roadmap for your pitch or your presentation, and these 3 key messages that you develop, make sure that they enhance the narrative. Some or all the following personal stories or facts. Give it in your narrative and provide some analogies, some metaphors, and some third-party endorsements. That is gold. I'm giving you the gold. And remember when we talked about the antagonist? You have to introduce the antagonist, the enemy, the problem, which will need a solution. There's a couple things we need to consider. We just don't present the antagonist right there. We have to develop that part of the story, right? Because every protagonist needs an enemy, right? Every hero needs an enemy. So if you have a problem, you're going to lead it to a solution, and that could be your product of service. But first you have to get their minds to accept that there's a problem going on. There's something that they need, because you are there to persuade them. So first you have to present this problem, and how deep you make that problem is up to you. However, you have to be able to bring them back to relate. Once you develop this storyline that you have, and you have your antagonist, you have to get them to follow. So first, before you present the solution, and this is what so many presenters fail to do, engage your audience, present the problem, and lead them by building rapport, connecting, identifying, getting to think about what your prospects or your clients are thinking, feeling, why they're there, what they're looking for. Once you understand that, and then you lead them to the solution. Okay, that is problem and solution. Beautiful. But there's a procedure, there's a process that goes for that. And if you understand that, you're on your path. Okay? Remember that you are on the path. Because this antagonist gives your audience the big picture. You don't start with the details. Start with some key ideas, right? In a hierarchical fashion. Some chronology, if even. Form the details around these larger notions, right? The assertions. Make sure that you give your audience the big picture. There are those of you that need a little guidance when it comes to developing this problem or antagonist. Just remember, you don't need to take a long time to get to the problem. You can get to it rather quickly. However, there are a few questions that you need to ask yourself. What do you do? What problem do you solve? How are you different? And why should I care? Create one sentence that's going to answer these questions. Let me repeat. What do you do? What problem do you solve? How are you different from the rest? And why should I care? Right? Why should I care? Why should that person care about what you're doing? How are you different? And what problem are you solving? And what do you do? Make sure you can solve that. What do you do? What problem do you solve? How are you different? And why should you care? Right? It's a convenient tool, the antagonist tool, for storytelling. So make sure that you are introducing the antagonist early in your presentation. Always establish the problem before revealing your solution. Right? Give them a vivid picture of your customer's pain point. Set up the problem by asking, why do they need this? Spend some time describing this problem in detail if you must. Make it tangible. Make it as real as you can to those people. And remember, you can even create it like an elevator pitch, right? Something you give away quick, right? And remember that 4-step method, right? Pay particularly attention to that method. Like I said, that 4 steps. What problem do you solve, right? Remember, nobody cares about what you're selling, your product or your service, unless they have a backdrop, schema building. Build that schema, that prior knowledge. Activate that prior knowledge so that you can build them into following you, persuading them, get them to come along. And that's the whole thing. Until you get to the hero, right? And the hero has a mission. And that is to solve the problem. Slay the bad guy. Make their lives better. Simply put, make their lives better. How are you going to lead them into the future to make their lives better? Right? Get that problem out there and get them actively engaged by making the problem go away. Your way. Through your product or service. Describe your current situation as it stands for the product or the service or how things are in society, and insert your vision to not only where it is, but where it can be, where it could be. And once you've established this antagonist, your clients or your prospects have this thing where they know exactly what you're talking about, and they can identify with your issue or your problem. And you offering this cure for their pain and this problem-solving methodology that you have is remarkable. They're going to appreciate you for that. But unless you have passion about this problem, it will not be believable to them. And make sure that you're aware of this 10-minute rule. And the reason why I'm emphasizing, and I can't even really emphasize this enough, is because people think that they could talk on and gather everyone's attention. And without research and understanding of what the studies really show, there is a limit to people's attention where you can grab them. There really is. And after that, you lose them. And it's called the 10-minute rule, right? This is where, you might have a 30-minute presentation, and you have to be able to understand that 10-minute is where you get to push most of your good stuff. Make sure you're getting a solid foundation established where there's something that you are actually having your audience buy into. But you've got 10 good, strong minutes. And I don't mean just the first 10. I mean, you can spread that 10 minutes throughout a half-hour presentation or 40-minute presentation of just getting them for that good stuff. So it's going to be variable how you do that. You could use different techniques, right? Whether it's video or, whether it's a partner or third-party endorsement, like how you break it up. But just understand that there is a real 10-minute rule that you must follow for persuasion to be effective, right? It doesn't matter. You have to remember the brain gets tired and it's constantly seeking stimuli. So, even into your presentation 10 minutes, right? No more. You make sure you give the people's brains a break. Don't try to overdo it. No, not at all. That 10-minute, make sure that you are aware in 10-minute increments how that brain is functioning. You're losing them after that. So make sure you get your good stuff in to start out well and to deliver well. And delivery is important as well. Deliver that experience. Simplification. That is so key. Simplify. Simple. Keep it simple. If you want to get them to really focus and follow, simplification is a key feature, right? Everything you do, keep it simple, easy to understand. And if it comes to having to present some data, make sure you are dressing it up. Make sure this data that is usually meaningless to most people without context, get some context, right? They have to be able to put it into context, any data that you have or present. Simplify this for sure. And don't forget to use some words that are uplifting, like amazing, wonderful, awesome, remarkable, unbelievable. These are words that the audience or your prospects are going to appreciate. It keeps them positive, right? Be creative. Use some props, right? Demos. Give a little bit of oomph to your presentation. And don't be afraid to use a little drama. A little dramatics goes a long way in some presentations for sure, but use drama, like a holy cow moment. That really hits some people, and it really is effective, right? That's what some of the great ones do. They use a little drama. A little dramatics goes a long way. And I know many of you like to present, especially with your PowerPoints, but you do need to understand that keeping simple slides free of extraneous information is the best way to engage your prospects or your audience. You need to understand that there are certain principles that need to be followed or adhered to. When you are presenting multimedia explanations, present your pictures and your words congruently rather than separately. Make sure they're together, okay? Also, make sure that when you give your explanations, present words as auditory narration. Say them rather than all this visual on-screen text that a lot of people like to do. They just fill up their screens with so much text. No. Keep it simple, even if it's 3 major things, 3 major words. Just be able to elaborate on them. It's more engaging and more interesting for your audience, right? As well, use much fewer, rather than extraneous words and pictures. Few. That's key. Keep it simple. I can't even express that enough. How many people put so much information on those presentations that it's just overwhelming to their audience, and they just don't get it. It's just too much, and nobody's really following. You actually lose 80% of your audience when you do that. People love photos. A picture's worth 1,000 words, and it's true, especially when you're presenting, right? People can pick up, even if they're not hearing everything you say, then they can look up and they can see that there's pictures that can give a great explanation, and it simplifies everything for them. Use plain English. Right? Don't try to dress it up. Don't try to say too much. Right? Avoid the bullets. Right? Always. Use theme-based slides. Right? Complement these themes with photographs or images. Learn to create visually aesthetic slides. Keep in mind that you do not have to be an artist to build rich slides today. You can embed videos. You can do a lot of things, right? That are really simple and easy to learn. If you're not sure, look it up on YouTube on how to integrate certain media into your presentations, right? Just make sure that you keep it simple, right? Also understand that people are simple. They're not complex, right? Use data to support your key themes on your presentations. Make sure that you don't overwhelm people. Make your data specific and relevant and contextual. Use rhetorical devices such as analogies. And those zippy words, I can't say enough the importance of using those encouraging, positive words. Those words that are good for you. Keep the jargon out of your presentations. Make sure that you're aware of this. You don't want to get people into a state of frustration. Unclutter your work. Look over your work. Eliminate redundant language, buzzwords, and jargon. Edit, and edit. And if you don't know how to edit well, get somebody else to edit. Have fun with it, for sure. Express your enthusiasm for your service or your product. Just make sure that you edit your work and simplify it. Break it down. Stop using words that are there to impress. People don't want to be impressed. They want to be moved. They're interested in products or services that can benefit them. So if they're worried about their budget, make sure that you're aware of that's what you understand, that you're delivering what you say you're going to deliver. Your product or service is doing something for them, right? It's saving them money. It's making them money. It's providing tools to make things more efficient. And the use of their money is going to good use. That's what they're looking for. These are some of the number one reasons people buy, is because they have someone in front of them that understands their needs. And of course, most successful companies know that a pool of reputable and satisfied customers is critical for sales success. It is. Don't forget your media. Share the stage with publications that rave about your product. Right? This is like a backup plan for you. It's so beautiful. So if you have a product or a service that you're trying to get them to buy into, make sure you have prospects or customers or third party who've tested your product or service, and they're able to make claims, right, or reviews on how good your product is. This is reinforcement, people, right? Incorporate these testimonials. Look at it. If you look at the site, it's all over I'm just telling you something that is working. It's all over the internet now. Go to, even when you go to YouTube and you listen to some of these videos, look below. You'll see these testimonials or their comments, and usually it's somebody they know putting positive comments so people can get encouraged. They understand this philosophy. They do. People have a good understanding when they study this philosophy of encouraging and persuasion, You see, I'm a big believer in demos. I think demos are so important, and this is kind of riding on the back of seeing is believing. Demos, to me, a great demo informs the audience, about the product or service, and it communicates the benefits, right, to your audience, and inspires them. It literally inspires them to take action. But you just got to make sure that whatever demo you are going to incorporate in your presentation, just make sure it's short. It doesn't take too much of the audience's time. It's simple. It's easy to follow. It's a good demo. It has the latest features. It's different, and it definitely differentiates your product from others, and it shows that to your competition and your audience. Make sure it's a good, fast-paced demo that you have. It doesn't last too long. Not more than 15, 20 seconds, right? It's substantial. It clearly demonstrates how your product or service offers a solution to a real problem, that your prospects or audiences experiences. They want to do things with your product, and they want to know that this thing works. And that's what you're there to do. Show them how this thing operates, right? Keep it short, simple, sweet, swift, and substantial. That is the formula. Many presenters make the mistake of doing too much, overwhelming the audience. And they might have a product that's fantastic and it has 10 different features. They're all fantastic. Well, I strongly recommend, and I'm going to say, matter of fact, I'm going to say, only focus on one thing. Your product might have 10 features to it, but find the one that really stands out and present that feature. Focus on the one feature that they can remember, and appreciate. And if you understand that there are different types of learners out there that make up your audience, they're visual learners, auditory learners, and kinesthetic learners, and you need to know the differences between the three, right? Remember, about 40% are visual learners. These people, they see, they're highly visual. These are people who can cram a whole lot of information into what they see. And there's auditory, the listeners, right? They're learning through listening, right? That's about 20 to 30% of your audience. And then there's kinesthetic learners. And these people are probably, they're probably the remaining 20%. And they're hands-on. They learn by doing. So if you're going to approach a presentation, try to get this formula where whatever you present, you reach all these different learners, all three: the visual, the auditory, and the kinesthetic learners. Don't try to present 10 features, and that's overwhelming. Focus on one, be consistent, reinforce that one feature to the forefront, and elaborate on it. Reinforce it, encourage it, believe in it, and embrace it. And they will too. Build a demo into your presentation, commit to it, and provide something for each of the learners, for the auditory learners, the visual, and the kinesthetic learners, the hands-on people. Make sure you cover those areas in your presentation. Engaging your audience is essential to your presentations. I like to say that I call it a Shazam moment. Build this into your presentation and it works magic. A Shazam moment. Build it in, right? Plan a Shazam moment. It need not be a breakthrough announcement. Just keep it simple. Tell a personal story. Reveal something new and unexpected. Give them some information. Delivering a demonstration can help and create something memorable for your audience, something that they can relate to, right? That is cool, and that's fun too. Script that moment. build up to this big moment. It's almost like building some suspense before you just lay it out there to your audience. It's just great storytelling. Learn to be a storyteller. Learn to build excitement, right? Rehearse, and rehearse that big moment. Give it to them, and they will love it. They'll appreciate it, right? Just remember the Shazam moment, and that comes with a story like a wow, but build up to that wow, and go negative, right? Go in that negative space, that problem. Start off there and work your way through. Remember, I told you got that problem. You're going to tell that story where you have that problem that they can all relate to. And then you develop that story. And then next thing you know, you're leading it. You're really bringing it down there. You're agitating it. Then you lead it by relating, rapport building, until you lead them out to the solution or that new perspective that you want them to embrace. But that Shazam moment is a great piece to a presentation. It works wonders. Well, people, I want to say that we just completed part 1 of presentation, how to present. And I'm giving you some essentials on how to be a great presenter. And this is part 1, and we're going to continue with part 2 in our next podcast. But I want to say, be like the wise old bird and spread the word. Thank you very much for listening, and until we speak again, boom. Take care of yourself, people. Thank you.